across the English colonies because they were upset at the violation of their rights over the course of the 1770s. And in fact, here in Philadelphia in 1774, we did have a meeting of 12 of these colonies, the First Continental Congress. They decided at the end of their meeting that they would meet again the next year in 1775 if the issues they had with the English government had not been fixed or addressed. So they adjourned in October of 1774. They planned to meet again in May of 1775. Do you guys know what happened between October and May of 1774 and 75? Do you think that their issues were fixed? No. Were they addressed? No. Did they get worse? Yes. Yes, because April of 1775, the American Revolution began. The battles of Lexington and Concord in Massachusetts. So when the Second Continental Congress came here in May of 1775, not only had their issues not been fixed, they had gotten significantly worse. Now we're engaged in a war with England. So this is, like I said, this is the first time these 13 colonies come together here in this room. The Second Continental Congress began on May 1775. The first thing they have to do is figure out what on earth we're going to do. We're in a war with England. We don't want necessarily to be in a war with England, but nonetheless, we're still fighting. So immediately they have to figure out the situation with the army. They will appoint a gentleman from Virginia. You've probably never ever heard of him. George Washington, maybe some of you? Okay. They appoint him as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. That's one of the very first actions that they do in here. Now, over the course of 1775, though, the colonists they want to reconcile with England. In 1775, the word independence would have been a bad word. That would have been considered a dirty word. We're not talking about that. That's a scary concept. Imagine trying to break away from the mother country. This had never been done before. That was an unheard of concept. But by the end of 1775, King George himself essentially issued a proclamation saying, we can't just go back to how things were. We can't pretend that this never happened. I'm not going to let you just come back quietly and go back to how things were. He kind of put the ball in our court, if you will. But it takes until June of 1776 for us to do anything with that ball. In early June of 1776, another Virginian, you may not actually have heard of him before, a man named Richard Henry Lee. He gets up in this room and he makes a resolution. He states that these colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. So June of 1776, and now we're using that big I word, independent. What happens after he makes that resolution? Two things. Two committees are formed. The first committee is a 5-man committee that is going to draft a message explaining our reasons for declaring independence. The man put in charge of writing this message, another Virginian, Thomas Jefferson. He writes it over the course of June, turns his homework in at the end of the month. He brings it in. Congress makes 80 changes to his document. 80. Apparently Thomas Jefferson is a man of few words, spoken words at least. He's sitting in the corner. Imagine him doing this. Really, guys? 80 changes? He's not happy with the changes made to his document. This document has a lot of very important words in it. Phrases like, all men are created equal. Phrases like, the government is derived from the consent of the governed. The people have to give their permission to the government to govern. Very important phrases. 80 changes, though. So, on July 2nd, the Congress will vote to declare independence, which is why nowadays we celebrate our Independence Day on July 2nd with fireworks, barbecues, bonfires, right? No. On July 4th, the Congress voted to approve the Declaration of Independence, one of our founding documents. And we celebrate July 4th on that day mainly because when the document's printed, it says in big words, in Congress, July 4th. We didn't know really about the July 2nd. So, July 4th, we declare our independence. Wonderful, we are now a free and independent country, right? No. We're still fighting a war. Fortunately, that war will end We will sign a treaty with the British in 1783. They will agree to recognize our independence. Excellent, wonderful. We now are a nation. What are we going to do now? Oh no. The second thing that happened back in June of 1776, there was another committee formed, and that committee was tasked with creating a government for the new nation. They produced a document called the Articles of Confederation. And this was the legal binding that drew these 13 colonies together. It bound the 13 states into a firm league of friendship. So basically, took 13 colonies that had nothing to do with each other a year before, said you're all going to be friends with each other. Great. There was a national government under the Articles of Confederation, but it was very weak. It essentially had to ask permission of the states to do anything. For example, taxing. It basically asked the states if they would pay taxes. Now, if I asked you if you would pay your taxes, but there weren't any consequences if you didn't, would you pay taxes? If it were optional, would you pay taxes? No. What happened is that this made the United States economy collapse, essentially. We had a large amount of war debt. Wars are expensive. We had no way to pay the war debt because each individual state wasn't contributing any money to pay that war debt, so the economy is going to collapse. The people will lose faith in their government under the Articles of Confederation. And in 1787, a group of men decided, okay, we need to try it again. They will come back to this building, come back to this room. And over the course of the summer of 1787, they will create a new government. A government that is not just a firm league of friendship. A government that actually can tax the states, essentially. A government that has a powerful national government. It was hard. Like we said, some like chocolate, some like vanilla. I like food, and so my other food metaphor, the Constitutional Convention, it's like when you order pizza for a party, and you're not sure how many different types of pizza you're supposed to get, so you just get cheese, because everybody likes cheese well enough, right? But nobody's like super happy to just eat a bunch of cheese pizza, right? It's hard. It's hard to plan a party. It's hard to write a constitution. It was hard to get these men to agree. Eventually, we decided that the federal government and the state government should have equal power. Eventually, we decided that the president is going to serve for 4 years, despite a gentleman from New York standing up talking for 6 hours, trying to convince everybody in this room that the president should serve for life. Yeah. They had all sorts of different ideas of what this government should look like. 4 years for the president was the compromise. The representation. We compromise. We have a House that's their representatives are decided by population, and a Senate where we all have equal amounts of representation. Compromise. It's hard. It's hard to do. And what the document that came out of those compromises is the document that we still use today. We, the people of the United States of America, in order to form a more perfect union. It's not we, the people of Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia. We, the people of the United States. We're all one now. We're all one nation. And at the end of the convention, an elderly gentleman from Pennsylvania, a man named Benjamin Franklin, he stood up and he told the convention that the entire time the convention was going on, he was a little preoccupied. He was staring at that chair that was at the front of the room, the chair occupied by George Washington. This is actually the only piece of original furniture in the building. He said he was staring at that chair, specifically at the carving at the top of the chair. It looks like this. He said, throughout the convention, I was trying to figure out, is that sun a rising or a setting sun? And on the last day of the convention, he stood up and said he had determined that this is a rising sun. It's a metaphor, y'all. It's about the country. A rising sun. The Constitutional Convention was the beginning of a new story, a new chapter. It's the beginning, and although we're at the end of the tour, this is the beginning for the nation, for the United States. This building witnessed these 13 colonies come together as one. This building witnessed as we became one nation. But the story didn't end in 1787. We had these ideas floating around. All men are created equal. We the people. Bringing together one nation. Right outside this building in 1844, Frederick Douglass delivered a speech decrying the institution of slavery. Also outside the building in 1876, Susan B. Anthony distributed copies of the Declaration of the Rights of Women. In the 1960s, there were civil rights sit-ins right here in this building. There were LGBTQ demonstrations right outside. We the people. The story continued. The story didn't end in 1787. It continued. It continues to this day. These ideas that we created in this room, we still try to fulfill them. We still try to make them true. That we are we the people, and that we're all created equal. So you guys have a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me on the tour of Independence Hall.